Alright, so what we have here is a lot of milk bottles. It's kind of interesting because these are the majority of milk bottles you can find anywhere, but these are the majority of the milk bottles you can find from Minnesota. There are a lot of different tops, a lot of different styles. This video is just going to go through them very briefly and show people what's available from Minnesota to collect from milk bottles if somebody wants to collect milk bottles. My primary interest is Austin, Minnesota, which you can see most of these bottles from Austin. This one's from Minneapolis. And then I've got some marigolds on here which are used universally throughout many towns. But we got the standard round milk bottle. We'll talk about that. Everybody's familiar with that one. There's a name for that bottle. We also have a square bottle here too, which is there's a name for that as well. Styles and were used very predominantly through all the states. There's a cottage cheese jar, which very, very popular and collectible in our state right now, more so than any of the other bottles up here. It's kind of exciting to see those go. Sometimes they go high, sometimes they go low. You just never know. So let's just get started here with some of the earliest milk bottles. This here, round bottle, sanitary milk, they were 1920s, possibly earlier. I don't really know, but when they started. But we know this bottle is from 1927 or before because of the Minnesota seal. I'll talk about that in a later video. This was a Winslow seal, Min 5. This is the Winslow Glass Company. There's a W down here too, indicating that the common sense milk bottle was invented in 18. And this is probably a later top. They were fitted with a cap seat, so you can see the cap would sit inside there. That was the patent. They were made with this cap seat, made with a ridge, and they were just a basic round bottle. That was the common sense. Following the common sense, now for some reason, this is another early one here too, Austin Dairy Products. This is the other dairy that was in Austin that was very predominant later on, another common sense bottle. This one was a Thatcher milk bottle, but it was made in 1927. Same year. So why do we see these bottles? If the bottle was patented in 1889, why do we see them so late? I don't have a good answer for that, except for the fact that I think people were selling milk, loose milk, very late in Minnesota and not using milk bottles as often. Because the dairies do go way back in Austin, to the 1890s even. So we'll go ahead and talk about the next stop, which is basically, it's called Al Secco. And it has a large ridge, small ridge, large ridge under the lip there. It's basic common sense shape, the round milk bottle, large lip. But this one, as you can see, does not have a cap seat. So they were made with and without a cap seat. This is a Marigold. Sanitary Farms sold out to Marigold. And let's just show this other bottle here. This is a Bernie Bond bottle. It's one of my favorite marks, 48 Min seal. But this is a Marigold dairy with the town name of Austin on it. Very hard to find Marigold bottles with town names on them, especially in Boston. I've seen this bottle from a few other towns in Minnesota. But that, Sanitary became Marigold. And then Marigold decided to start using their standardized milk bottles. Here's a ACL version, a little later from 1945. Here's an embossed bottle, 1938. Now these are some of the few bottles up here that don't have town names on them. I just included them because Marigold is very, very popular in Austin. It's one of the leading dairies, along with some of the other dairies I'm going to talk about here. This is a Marigold square bottle. We'll talk about that here in a second. But before we do, let's look at the other Al Secco top. This one just has ridge, 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 ridge. Also, I should mention on the base, patented March 1731. 1931 was the patent date for this. This is an Austin Dairy Redmonds. Here's a painted version of that. This is a common sense stop. This is not. This is Al Secco, but it's got the little variation. It's got just the large ridges, and it's also got the cap seat. So the Al Secco is available in many different. I've got all four different styles here. The ACL with a cap seat, the ACL without a cap seat, so on and forth. Small ridges, large ridges, or both ridges. And there may even be another variant I don't have. But this is a Redmonds bottle from 1936, same year as this. It's just that this one is an ACL. This one is a... These are some of the first ACLs used in that town, too, possibly in Minnesota. 36 was kind of the beginning. There were some that would probably predate that a little bit. Then the next top we are going to talk about is the Ikonophore, which is this bottle. Again, another Marigold bottle I talked about just briefly here. You can see it's got a lip here, smaller lip, got the ridges, and then there's usually a ridge underneath that. That's kind of important. That's usually a Ikonophore. Ikonophore was made with a cap seat, even though they used aluminum caps for these. There's cap. I've not seen one of these without a cap seat, although I've been told that they do exist. Here's a quart version. Again, this is a newer seal cap that was probably used later. But that's another thing I didn't mention earlier is the press and blow method, where the top was pressed and the entire bottle was blown separately. They moved them to different molds. Thus, the mold seam stops. Now, I know most people are going to say, oh, mold seam stop, that means it's a hand-blown bottle. Well, not on a milk bottle. You could never have finished this ridged Ikonophore finish with hand blowing. Plus, this is a square bottle, plus it's an ACL. ACL, we said, what, 1936? And then the square bottle, which is called the Handy Square, was invented in, this is a 49 bottle. This bottle was invented in about 43, I think. You can find it with, if you find it with the earlier top, it's actually a little different, earlier, but you know, in early 40s. Let's just leave it at that. This has got an ad on the back for cream, as well as a Marigold logo. These bottles are very common. Common sense bottles are very common. Ikonophore also can be found in a round bottle. Here's one with a original aluminum top. There's a round bottle with an Ikonophore. 1952. Which is kind of interesting that they were using round and Ikonophore that late. The next stop is where things get a little confusing. Oh, here's a cottage cheese jar. Let's talk about that. That's a common sense. That was a press and blow as well. You can tell, you know, the embossing is weak up here, you know, because of that press and blow. You know, it gets stronger as it goes down here. This is a 1946 bottle, cottage cheese jar. The next top we're going to talk about real briefly here is the multi-cap, and that's actually one of the few bottles I have up here with an original cap. This is the Golden Dairy top, and you can see the seal cap would have snapped right on there. This cap could have been used on the Ikonophore. It would not have been used on the, they call it a multi-cap, so it had been used on all the different tops. You could have used it on some of the, there's a possibility it was the different sizes that were made this. You could have used it on, see, it wouldn't fit on this one. Here's an Alseco common sense, it wouldn't fit on there. I showed you one earlier that's a little larger that fits on top of there. So they made several different sizes of tops, 24 different types of tops by the late 50s were standard. But what's really interesting is I talked about the Austin Dairy, the Redmonds. The Redmonds became Austin Dairy. This bottle here, this is also a multi-cap, and then the Golden. So these are just a few years apart from each other. Golden Dairy's mid-50s. This is probably early 50s, maybe even late 40s. I think they're both from the 50s. One of the dairies I didn't talk about was the Streveling Farms. Here's a common sense bottle again, an ACL. Again, some of these are very early, 36, 37. Streveling also comes in a Boss bottle there, common sense. But the Streveling made bottles, fairly modern bottles. This is one of the newest ones. This is going to be kind of the tail end of the milk bottle. Some companies use this along with that square, regular square. I've only seen this one, a half-gallon with the grip size. You got the ACL on the front. On the back, you've got an ad for promoting glass rather than paperboard, which is a whole other topic. But this square is very, very much a modern bottle. You've got the smaller size multi-cap, and at first I thought that this was a multi-cap, the only multi-cap, but they come in two different sizes, which is kind of confusing. Here's another one from Streveling, smaller size. Like I said, it's very complex and confusing, but you can definitely tell this is a smaller top. There are some dairies not far from the cities here that use glass in that. The multi-cap is no longer used, but they still use that style of bottle. Here I'll show you really quick. Glass bottle. This is an Ikonophore with a bumper roll. Now you're noticing with the multi-cap, oh, that must be the ridge down here, that's the multi-cap. But that's not the case. That bumper roll, as they call it, here is being used to hold the handle. So you can hold, this is a big Sterling gallon jug. A Conopore top, it's got that ridge underneath. And there's a couple other characteristics, I won't get into the detail, but and then we also have a multi-cap cream bottle, and these come in round and square. I've only seen square ones from Austin. This is really neat because the Austin Dairy Superior Flavor Ice Cream, they were very, very good at advertising other things. Reach for Austin Dairy Milk. Ask for Austin Ice Cream. It Whips Cream Top. Again, this is the multi-cap. The last bottle I'm going to talk about is the Crown Cap. This is a soda bottle, but imagine an enlarged, oversized Crown. And that was the Dacro, was patented in 1911. I don't have an example of that one because it was not a very popular in any of the states. I don't think it was a very popular. There are some from Minnesota, but you don't see them very often. Here you're looking at this one thinking, oh, this is another multi-cap. No, this is a later Dacro, and you can tell some of these have number 86037 on the back, so we know. But it doesn't have any ridges. It's just got this lip along with it's almost a gradual kind of a mushroom style. Some of these I called mushroom tops at one point in time because I didn't know the right term. But that's the Dacro. It took a metal cap that would fit on there with a cardboard insert. And then that was very successful, and they maybe even bottled carbonated orange drinks in some of these. This one's from Red Wing. But that's kind of just the basic styles you see from Minnesota. I am going to come back and make another video and talk about the Minnesota Seal here. This is 48. I mean, that's a different manufacturer. This one here is One Min. That's a different manufacturer. I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the other glass companies. I just touched base on those as I went through these, but that's what's available from Minnesota for milk bottles.